All right, so we're back here at the second annual Best of Analytics Conference, Big Data and the Cloud, live from Delta Edmonton South. Joining me this morning is Brian Rhiness from the Rhiness Group. Thanks very much for being on our web TV show. Why don't you start out by telling me a little bit about yourself and your company and what you do?
Well, thanks, Brendan. Pleasure to be here. And my company, the Rhiness Group, we work with small to mid-sized companies, and really we focus on strategic advisory services, helping them get better results from whatever they're doing, and with strategic planning, strategic implementation, startups, turnarounds, some corporate governance stuff, and so really focusing on how to get better results on your day-to-day operations.
Awesome, very, very interesting. So I guess to start off, why don't you tell me a little bit about analytics and what that means to you?
Well, I think analytics to me and most of the organizations that I work with is really taking reams of data and turning it into usable information that you can make decisions on. As simple as that. And I do a lot of work in agriculture, and most of my career has been in agriculture. And of course, so we have volumes and volumes of data. And a lot of times that can't get translated, or doesn't get translated to a usable decision-making point for the companies or farmers. And let's face it, in the farm community, there's a lot of different needs. And I think one of the challenges we have with analytics is to make that usable translation to decision-making points for a broad range of customers. Mm-hmm. And I think that's partly consistent with other industries as well.
All right. So why do you think people should be interested or excited about analytics and big data?
Well, because I think the information's there. And if you look at some of the things, for example, some of the stuff we're seeing at the conference here, in genomics, for example, the information's there on livestock, on crops. We just need to get it out, and we need to get it translated in a way that producers can make good decisions on that data. And we have some great speakers that are really at the leading edge of demonstrating how that can be done.
Fantastic. So how did you become involved in analytics?
Well, I guess to some extent I've always been involved in it. I spent many years with the government of Alberta and again looking at research and funding research. And so there was always lots of data, and our challenge always was trying to turn that into something that would add value to the industry and add value to the people who were putting the money forward. And so I guess I've always been interested in that end of it, more from the decision-making point, where the value would come from, rather than the scientific discovery part of it. And we work closely with our research people to try and make that happen.
Very interesting. So why don't you talk a little bit about your company and the services that you offer?
Well, again, we try to strategic advisory services. We are really looking on those day-to-day operations and strategic planning, for example, and trying to set strategic plans, looking out 5 to 10 years. Where do we want the organization to be? What does that look like? Really begin with the end in mind, and bring that back to put plans in place that will make that happen, and be forward-looking. Again, a lot of organizations say they do that, but they don't really. And the measures around that, the strategic and operational execution plans to make all of that happen, and really try and provide the best advice we can to organizations to get the best results and be as successful as they possibly can. And we also do a lot of work with boards of directors, corporate governance stuff, and again, trying to help them be as efficient and as effective as possible.
All right, sounds very interesting. So you talk about being forward-looking. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you think the future holds for analytics?
Oh, I think there's a great future, and I think we're just at the leading edge of it right now. As we get better at analyzing, using that data, we're going to get more and more refined and really focused on where we're starting to see now. I call it market pull. Where we look at what's the end result we want. What are our customers looking for? What are organizations looking for? And that driving how we're looking at the data, what we're collecting, how we're collecting it. And so I think we have great opportunities out there, but we need to focus on the customer, what their needs are. In agriculture, for example, if you look at livestock genomics, feed efficiency is extremely important in the livestock industry. well, we need to make sure we're pulling the data we need on that end and analyzing it properly so we get the producers the best possible decision-making points we can on, for example, feed efficiency.
All right. So what would you say the biggest changes you've seen big data and analytics make in the world are?
Oh, I think it's just how refined we can get. In some of the examples we've already seen, and even one of the speakers this morning talking about how they decide on what we're going to watch on TV. It's pretty elaborate, the amount of data they can collect and how they can collect it to decide what I want to watch on TV. And it's amazing how they get it right. The stuff that they pick for me, I actually do enjoy. So I think we can almost individualize stuff now, whether it's stuff you watch on TV, stuff we make decisions on for our businesses, any of that, medical things. I think there's just unlimited opportunities.
Very interesting. Sounds like there's lots of very practical applications for it. What do you think we should be concerned about as analytics becomes more widely used?
I think there's probably going to be at some point be a little bit of pushback on privacy and those kinds of issues. How much are they actually collecting? What are they collecting and what are they using it for? People at some point in time will probably get a little bit concerned about that. I don't mind them collecting data on what I watch on Netflix, but I'm not sure how much further I want them to go on what I'm doing and thinking. So I think there may be a little bit of pushback on that in the future.
Okay. So I guess could you talk a little bit more about what information you think people might collect in the future as far as just really any sort of practical applications?
Well, I think if we look at, for example, the speakers we have here at the conference on agriculture, they're very much focused on the consumer and what the consumer's looking for. And Megan Deere, who's one of our speakers, has built a business around looking at the consumer and trying to ascertain what they're looking for from the food products that they're buying. And I think there's going to be more of that. And again, as individualized as we can possibly get on that. But consumers are focused on food safety, quality, price. So we can really refine that much deeper. And we've got localized products, which is a big initiative here in Alberta. So I think Megan and others have been able to do a lot of work to bring that further along. And our other speakers that we have that are looking at livestock and crop genomics, again, to try and refine that as closely as we possibly can to what the end user really needs to make really good decisions. And I think there's value there. And I think we're going to have a more efficient and effective livestock and crop industry as a result of the work that they're doing.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums up all of my questions. So thank you very much for joining us, and
my pleasure.
Look forward to seeing you throughout the conference.
Great. Thanks, Brendan.
All right. Thank you very much. Join the conversation next year as more cities become data-driven. Become a community partner. Contact us at info@abctech.ca.